Here, so I'll get everybody to stand, and words will be up on the screen in a second.
Just make sure this isn't going to issues. Should be
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, ia mākina ki uta, ia mātakataka ki tai, e hea ake mana te atakura, e tio, he uka, e halau, tine, Māori ora. Right, first up, apologies. We do not have any today, but we do have Simon and Ali joining us online today. Item 2, declarations of interest. We've got one from John, has declared an interest in item 8, and Emma has declared an interest in item 11, so we've noted that. Item 3, confirmation of previous minutes. I'm going to move it into seconder for those. Jake and Sunita, put that motion. All those in favour? Aye. That's carried. And now we can move on to our public forum. We do have a number of these today, so we're just going to make sure we keep it to the 5 minutes for each person, and that includes time for questions. So first up we have Ava. Welcome along, Ava. So Ava is reporting back to us after receiving a grant from our Youth Development Fund.
Looks like it paid off. So I received a grant to go across to the World Championships for canoe polo. My team was under 21 New Zealand women who at the past 4 World Champs have all come third. This year we won. So we were overseas for about 6 weeks in total. We started off in Northern Ireland, and we had a pre-tournament there, which was the Junior International Championships, and we placed first at that. So we were undefeated across that competition. That competition, we also, our coach decided to make a bet with the host of the event that we could beat the under-18 men's team from Great Britain, who are young, but they're very big. And we beat them 3-2. Great, we got a photo with the guys after the game. They looked very disgruntled. And then after that, we travelled around Europe a bit. We were in the Netherlands, and Germany, training with clubs over there. And we then had a second pre-competition in Belgium. And so that competition was, we played in an open women's grade. So we were versing under 21 teams and senior teams. And we came second. So we lost the final, but were until that stage undefeated. And then following that, we moved to France and we spent about 2 weeks there. And that's where the World Champs were held. And we went into that competition ranked 8th because of with the European Champs, they changed New Zealand's rating. They drop it down because for our Oceania Champs, we only verse Australia. So every kind of time they do a European Champs, our rating gets dropped. So we went in ranked 8th. And then after the second day, when we'd beaten both the strong teams, a few articles came out being like, New Zealand's freight train is like unstoppable. And from there, we basically were undefeated right through to the finals, which we won. And it was insane. So I have a very big trophy. Cool.
Tell us about the funny thing about the trophy.
Oh, yes. So you probably can't tell, but New Zealand's actually not on there. Our flag's also not on there.
Oh,
so,
Yeah,
I didn't expect it to.
we need to stick it on.
Yes, we can just add a little sticker somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Victoria's.
There we go. And so we also, I also got my medal.
Oh, yeah.
So we can have a look at that if you guys want.
That is solid.
Yeah, it's quite heavy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's stage material.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm very, very grateful for the grant because it was a very expensive tour, and without the grant, I couldn't have gotten over there and won it. So I'm very, very thankful.
Nice. 40 band.
Yeah, go ahead, Pauline.
So is it one person per canoe?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, and it was a team sport or an individual?
Yeah, so it's a team sport.
Mm.
There, in our team, there were 9 selected. So we had 8 players and 1 travelling reserve. So our reserve played at our pre-comps with us, but isn't allowed to play at World Champs unless there's like an injury. And then so at the time you'll have 5 people like on the pitch playing, and you have 3 people in sub. Yeah.
And where you train there?
Lake Road Kohati. It's
Yeah.
near the airport.
Here we go.
Yeah.
And there are more.
Yes,
We don't see things.
yes, because at the moment it's quite difficult. We only have 2 pitches.
And you only have a couple of hours day on.
Yeah, yeah, and there's for our A grade teams, there's 3 A grade teams. And then I think we've got 3 B grade teams and then like other grade teams as well on leagues that run. So 2 pitches make it a bit difficult to get everyone's space.
So what's next? Are you training for something else or you're aspiring for selection or something else?
Yes,
Yeah.
so from here, we have the Oceania Championships coming up in December, which will be in Hawke's Bay. So I've put my name down to trial for the senior team because I'm too old for under 21s now. So we'll have that, and following that, we'll go into selections for next year's Worlds, which will be in China. So I'll be trying to make the senior team.
Good luck for all of that. Oh, and thank you so much for coming along to present today and for bringing us. Thanks, Ava.
Very proud. Yes. You don't have to stay in all meeting with us.
Yeah,
Next up, we have Danielle. Welcome along, Danielle. Okay, grab a seat, stand up, whatever you like. Yeah.
Watch the video.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yes, very cool video.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we were funded and went to Auckland for HHI, the Hot Dance Nationals. And we went over up there and competed in the Finlands. We didn't make it through the finals, but to even get the opportunity to go was great, and without the funding, we wouldn't have been able to go. So we're grateful for that and thankful that we had the opportunity to go and perform, and even to be able to watch like everyone else that we were against was just like the talent was incredible. And yeah, we were up there for like 5 nights, I think.
Questions? Yeah, Pauline.
Oh, just, I mean, the stadium must have been incredible, just watching that video here, I was so impressed. Everyone was insane. This takes so much energy to get out. You know, very, very good, wasn't it? What's, and I was really good.
Next we are training and doing a new concept to go to Nelson for a hip hop comp called Shakedown.
Were there many other South Island people up for that one in Auckland?
Yeah, there was quite a few actually from like different studios, but not much in like our trio section. They were mostly like bigger groups.
That was how long you been? That's probably.
That's how we dance.
Wow. A lot of training. Parents teach that to the little guys. I think your outfits are really nice. You make them yourselves?
You know, we order them online usually.
Oh, yeah. Really good. No, it's really impressed.
Well done. Yeah, as I say, we all watched the video and yeah, really impressive. Great dance. Yeah, and all the best for the next thing that you're working towards. Thanks for coming along. Right now I'll invite Leon. Welcome along, Leon.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my first time here, and thanks to Miss for having me here, and thanks to the young ladies bring the cheerful news. I'm bringing the issues and yeah. All right, my name is Leon and I live in St. Albans community and in the previous 3 years I live on the Springfield Road. And last year I moved to Mercy Street, still in that zone. And I just from my own observation, there is rising like criminal related activities and security issues among the St. Albans community. Because myself is in the St. Albans Edgeware and Shirley, the Facebook group. It's not like a massive group. It's only 6,700 people, members there. And since by the time I wrote the email to Miss Pauline, and it's over like a half month's time, it's already 12 criminal, like in terms of like burglaries and breaking and vandalism, those kind of issues happening in the 15 days time. And not to mention, you know, people are not in that group, like seniors people, which have a difficulty to access the internet. It's not everyone posts stuff in the local Facebook group every day. So it used to be a very lovely community. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still lovely and neighbors support to each other. It's just in the last couple of years, I just saw more and more issues and happening and in the community. For example, it's very iconically like people try to stop the theft, and so they install security cameras. And on the same day, and 2 security cameras got stolen. And even this morning, and I checked the Facebook group, and a poor girl and lost his like her scooter got stolen just on Canal Street. So I at least a few things which is just from my own observation and for what's happening in the community. So I hope council can do like a public hearing forum among the community and maybe start doing some action. And I happened to meet I think Taylor from the Rickerton Word a few weeks ago. I know in Rickerton we start to do some things, for example, like installing surveillance, like a camera. I know it's very hard for council to make such decision because it might intervene like privacy, those kind of things. But definitely, I think we should start doing something because myself, the effort is very limited. But if we organize together with our neighbors and the city council, I'm sure there's something we could do. I'm just a normal neighbor who live in that area. I'm sure this is happening maybe in some areas too. Yeah, yeah, that's about it. Well, see.
Any questions for Leon?
No, if I could just comment and say it's the right thing to do to bring us the information, and then we can relate it to the police. So this is something so it's about having that data. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can be a representative in the community and gathering everyone's opinions and about in terms of like having this type of forum. I don't mind doing that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Jack, your question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, have you thought of touching base with your local community patrol to see maybe, you know, something know that you reckon is a bit of a hot spot starting to clear?
Yeah, Miss Pauline suggests these things as well. It's just I don't see that much like a community patrol, like a vehicle, like in the community. I don't know why.
Maybe if you didn't know that.
When I travel to some other community, like New Brighton, I always see like the petrol cars and just yeah.
Have you got the contact number?
I haven't, but yeah. Sure. Yes.
Before we start using.
Tanika?
Yeah, I thank you for coming. I live very close to you as well.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
so and last night I was on community patrol with the team.
All right.
So
Which street?
so we went through Edgeware
Okay.
around that area, but because the one I was on, it's a city park one. So it's more central wards, right? But I had a conversation with them and they're more than happy to be notified and they can make that. There are reason why we don't see them because they come out on the times when all of us are inside the house, right? Yeah, but it's very effective work what they do. So well done for you to taking this effort, and we will get this escalated and hopefully we'll have a good outcome. Thank you.
guys.
Thank you. Just to, hold on, we are over time, but just one last one. We actually are today adopting our community board plan for the next 3 years. One of our priorities in that is safety initiatives in our board area, and this is the sort of thing that we want to explore, figure out how we can work with the community to help everyone feel safe. So watch this space and we'll do what we can. And yeah, we'll facilitate that because it's Sam who runs the Northern Patrol.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Leon.
All right, thank you.
Next up, Joe, one of our local ECAN councillors, to introduce himself. So welcome along, Joe.
Hello.
You can sit down.
I'll stand up. I do feel a bit like a geography teacher, but that's all right. Yeah, greetings to elected members, to the chair, staff, and hello to other community board members. My name is Joe, community members. My name is Joe Davies. I'm a councillor at our regional council, the Canterbury Regional Council, also known as Environment Canterbury or ECAN. And I'm just here to introduce myself, really to kind of say hello, introduce the organisation I'm from, because obviously this is the kind of touch point board from our community to our representative democracy, and of course we represent the same constituents as well. And the areas of overlap with the North East Project constituency are Papanui, basically in its entirety, 90% of Innes, and then there's about 1,000 people in Richmond that I share with the central board members. So this is our home, 200 Tuam Street. We've got about 650 staff in here. Our chamber is at the bottom floor here. It's quite a cool chamber. It's got a good energy. And we face the bus interchange, which is good for us because we run the buses and we're good to see them trundling past when we're making decisions.
Just cheap, they're on time.
Yeah.
Next slide. Just, Canterbury, we're a very significant region in the New Zealand context. We have 70% of New Zealand's groundwater, we've got 21% of New Zealand's highest quality soils. And what we're seeing in the North Island, the future of Canterbury is going to be very significant in New Zealand, and I'm talking 50, 100 years. This region is going to be the future of New Zealand. Next slide. These are the 10 territorial authorities we have relationships with. I think we have a kind of memorandum of agreement that we work with. Christchurch, you guys, the superpower, without doubt, the vast bulk of the population, the vast bulk of the economic power, but our other TAs are, really important as well. And the growing, Selwyn and Waimakiriri, Selwyn's the fastest growing district in New Zealand. And so we're going to see a lot of growth here, and that's going to come under our joint statutory committees like the GCP, the Greater Christchurch Partnership, and other groups. Next slide. The difference with us and you elect your mayor directly, first past the post. We, as a council, elect our chair through a resolution, through an election at our inaugural meeting. We had an 8-8 split down the middle, and our standing orders means that our leader, the political leader of Canterbury, was drawn from a bucket by some consultants here. Peter Scott's name is drawn. He's a mixed crop farmer from South Canterbury, and the deputy chair is Craig Pauling, who's a well-known environmentalist. Next slide. This is us. Here's our chair, our deputy, and it's a historic term because we have Tuta Honuku, Nook Koraku, Councillor, and Councillor Yang Cranwell, who are appointed by Ngāi Tahu, first region in New Zealand to have such a representative arrangement. And this is just another photo of some of our executive leadership team. We've got our Chief Executive Officer, among others. So yeah, our main streams of funding and kind of our works, our committees are all based around these kind of areas, these 5 portfolios we call them. And the biggest one that affects your constituents is, I'd say, transport is the Christchurch. It's the Christchurch biggie. Next one. It's a bit more in depth about what we do. I can forward these slides as well. That'd be good. In the next slide. So yeah, we've got a $266 million annual budget for the 22-23 financial year. And there's just a split of what our funding goes into. You know, 43% is in transport, air quality, urban development. And we get a, you know, Waipapa Papanui come to that, so that they fund half of what we do on public transport. Yeah, next one. Yeah, so that's the constituency I represent. And as I said, you know, you guys here in this, and then this chunk of Richmond here, and the border that goes into Waitai, so I share communities with Burwood, Coastal, and a chunk of Linwood as well. So yeah, please feel free to get in touch at any time this triennium. Really want to raise the profile of Environment Canterbury Regional Council, because it's something we need to do. And yeah, be a part of our decision making.
Thanks, Joe. We've got time for one quick question from Ali.
Hi, Joe. Sorry, I'm at home with COVID at the moment. Just a very quick question, but you may not be able to answer it or answer it succinctly because it's reasonably involved. How does the Christchurch City Council and the community boards feed into democratically things like the Greater Christchurch Partnership and so forth? I'm thinking primarily around the transport plan. So we've got our own strategic transport plan, but how does that feed into, and how is the council involved in that strategy and direction as far as those committees are involved?
Sure. So yeah, the council's main role there is the appointment of the councillors onto the Greater Christchurch Partnership. So I think it's Councillor Templeton, Councillor Henstock, and of course the mayor sits on the Regional Transport Committee. That's a really important committee for regional transport. We're looking at things like passenger rail in the future. So Phil, Mayor Major, he's really important. If you want to lobby him and say, hey Phil, let's get passenger rail to Ashburton, and he's going to have voice at that table. So those are probably the two biggest ways that you feed into transport in the region.
How do they work with the Greater Christchurch Partnership, though? That's my question.
So the GCP is kind of it's adopting the spatial plan at the moment. It's going to has it come for you guys yet?
Last meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's around the adoption of plans. Yes. Yeah. Regional strategies. The other committee is the Whakatainaki Committee, which is the Greater Christchurch Partnership with buy-in from the Crown. And basically the idea was that not one of us, so not the regional council, not the city council, not the other district councillors, are going to have the ability to resource the transport needs that we have going into the future. So the idea was to bring the Crown, bring the regional council, bring everyone together and say, well, how are we going to fund this? How are we going to have a strategy for the Greater Christchurch? And obviously you guys are the centre of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Appreciate you coming along. Keep in touch. Thanks. Next up, we have Norwest Sport and Community Hub. It's Sam here, is it? Yep. Come on, Sam.
Just start here.
Yes, have a seat.
Hi, I'm Sam Watt. So just introduce myself first. I've been heavily involved with the Papanui Boxing Club and Mariscopian Rugby Club for a few years now, and I think my life's sort of, you know, got so much benefit from being involved in sport and the connections and friendships and stuff to make as well as the physical benefits. So that leads me to being passionate about the Norwest area, and also sport and community. And so I've come onto this newly formed board of the Norwest Sport Hub. So we're a collection of 6 founding clubs of this at the moment. And our sort of our mission is to give the residents of Norwest Christchurch access to quality shared and multi-user facilities, recreation, community and social activities and services provided by organisations working together and enduring partnership within the community. So basis of that is, I think sport in general is going to struggle, sports clubs in general are going to struggle to survive in the future without a collaborative approach. There needs to be the sharing of facilities, the sharing of fields and stuff like that. And the goal of our hub is to make sure that we can utilise the facilities and being strength in numbers that we can invest in facilities as well. We're not only just with our area and our suburbs, which would be Herwood, Papanui, Brindwood, parts of Burnside, North Kit, Bishopdale, Casebrook, parts of Redwood, Mirabelle and St Albans. So I think we cover is a Herwood Waimari board as well, so 2 boards as well. So we want the area to have great investment in those recreational activities because they provide so much benefit. And talking to the boards, making sure they're aware of us. If there's opportunities that come up, we want to be that first point of call that we can partner with you guys to have the best benefit. There's probably been not as much investment in the northwest side of Christchurch compared to say the east, recently, and there's probably only been Graham Condon in recent years. And we've also got the YMCA on board, and they understand they're fully booked all the time. So there's the need for those facilities. Like we were talking about the hip hop dancing or the gymnastics and stuff like that. They're battling for indoor spaces all the time, and we really it's not just your sports fields and your club rooms, your changing rooms. It's all kinds of facilities that we want to make sure that are available in our northwest area.
Great. That's really exciting to hear about you guys all getting together in collaboration, as you say, it's the key. Do we have any questions? Yeah, we'll go Jake and then Emma.
You mentioned that sports function for the future and have a really tough time. Is that because of a constrained funding environment, or is that because of the dilution of people playing sports?
I think a bit of both. I'm chartered accountant and corporate banker, so naturally I've got shoulder tap to be treasurer of an organisation. And the funding constraints are massive, and you get those efficiencies of shared facilities. So, for example, my rugby club partner with Waipapa Papanui, because the Bowls Club is dormant in the winter, isn't it? And you partner together, maximising the efficiency of that facility. And then also it feels like the different sports boards and stuff need to work together as well. I think they have started, especially in Canterbury. Because I don't know what it is, because obviously as a kid I was into it, but there's obviously different offerings and stuff like that, and devices and whatnot is sport not as attractive as it used to be.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask what the age.
So we've got Redwood Papanui football, Nomads football, Maristalbian rugby, Maristalbian netball, Bowls Papanui, Mirabelle Papanui rugby, and
Victoria?
I've been appointed to the Northwest Christchurch Community School Trust, which manages the Marist Park.
Yeah.
And I was going to share it with the board under our member exchange later this meeting, that I had an opportunity to meet with Richard and some of your board members. I don't think you were available on that.
No, I wasn't.
And part of the information I think is relevant for us is the council is currently undertaking a bit of a strategic overview about what their long-term needs are in terms of their sporting and recreation facilities. We haven't seen that yet, but we know that some draft, we know this coming. And I'm aware that Richard has been in touch with someone in the sport and rec team to liaise about where that's heading, so that you guys are part of that conversation.
Yeah.
And the bigger picture price, which I hear what you say about we've got intensification coming up in the northwest, and we're very conscious of the need for additional sport and recreation facilities and resources for background.
Yeah, and I think June 12th, we are looking at having a workshop where people are available, and it would be good if I can, once that information is confirmed, I can send it on, that it could be distributed to the community, so that we can get as many people that want to contribute to that workshop around what are the needs in our area, and how can we how can the hub best try and get something moving forward. Yeah, I think we are with Sport Canterbury, if I understand rightly.
Yeah,
Just
if you
added
could-
that the trust has also met with, the trust that I'm on has also met with Richard to talk about, because we've got some overlap in
Yeah.
terms of the provision of facilities.
Yeah, if you could share the details of that workshop, we can share it with our networks, and I mean, I'd be interested in coming along.
Yeah, And also with the other board, depending on.
Yes.
Yeah. And you might want to get some of the members there, I don't know.
Yeah.
Staff.
Are you doing a similar presentation to them?
Yeah, I think there's someone else's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair
Can you
enough.
just add under the some of our board priorities for our term?
Yes,
Some
yes,
challenges.
and under that intensification priority, we mentioned specifically in there about recreation facilities in the area and the need for growing population needing more investment in those. Cool. Thank you very much for coming along to speak to us today.
Okay.
Appreciate you taking the time.
All right.
Thanks for your work that you're doing too. And we have John. Thanks for your patience, John.
That's all right.
John is from the Charleston Neighbourhood Association. Great to be over here near your neighbourhood.
Well, that's why I'm here. I'm very appreciative of you actually taking the time to bring your board to here. My name is John Hoskin. I'm chairman of the Charleston Neighbourhood Association, who has been operating now for 43 years. And I've been chairman right through that. Right through those years, starting with Hamish Hay, and then when the boards came through, we have had tremendous associations with the elected members. And that's what we were a wee bit frightened about when we were changing from going the Linwood side of things, going over to that side of the thing. So I must confess that we've been very, very privileged to have all the elected members at our for the Central Ward attending our meeting. Very much appreciated, and we look forward to a long association with that. I've emailed Mark on one problem that we were having, and that was in Ferry Road, where footpaths got into a very sad state. And because rather than widen Ferry Road, they actually had the parking with half on the footpath and half on the road. They repaired all the footpath, and the white line that went along there disappeared. That was about 12 months ago. And we've been trying to get that other line in because there's no indication for people wanting to park. I laid that out on a letter to Mark, and he said to snap, send and solve. That has been snapped in and solved. So hopefully sometime in the near future that will be solved.
I've done it too, so between the two of us, the organisation.
Right, absolutely, yes, yes. Yeah. So but as I say, it's not happened with every neighbourhood association. In the earlier time, we had a combined neighbourhood associations meetings, and all the other associations, the council and the associations were like that. We felt very guilty because we always had an amazing association with that. We've also been involved with Lancaster Park, because Lancaster Park has been a part of our area. And in the early days, when they decided to put the lights up, the Carisbrook and Eden Park neighbourhood associations asked us to join them to go against the lights. And we had 3 70-year-olds living right opposite who were on the committee, and I thought, well, they won't like it. But anyway, when we brought it up at the meeting, they couldn't have been more associated, more for it. And as a result of that, we said, right, we'll work with you rather than against you. And that did give us lots of privileges in relation to corporate stands, when there was a game on. So that just gives you a wee bit of history, and we do appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to actually hold your meeting in our area.
Nice to
Thanks,
see.
Joe.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you and hear a bit of that history and hear about the relationship that you've had up till now. And we definitely want to continue that positive relationship moving forward. So keep us informed about what's happening, and I'm sure we'll continue, not just your central members, but maybe others as well, coming to your events and meetings and things like that. So thank you for coming along today. It's great to meet you.
Right, pleasure.
Thanks. Right. So anyone else wanting to do a public forum? No. Okay, that takes us on to item 5, which is deputations by appointment, and we have Anna Melling. You're going to speak to the greening the east approval for tree plantings and parking changes projects. Welcome along. You get 10 minutes, but that also includes time for questions. So if you want time for questions, then
I've got this slideshow all worked out. So my name is Anna, and yeah, I'm talking about the greening the east plan and what was it?
The boss.
Yeah, so I live on Therapy Street, and there's currently a plan to plant 8 London trees, where you see the 8 green spots on the road, in the parking lane, and I've got the following objections to this plan. First objection is power lines. So the length of the road has power lines all the way along the side. And there's a Vodafone cable line, which is about 1 metre below the main lines. And the plans to put the trees in the parking lane, so they're offset from the power lines. But the trees are very large. They're 15 metres tall. And so they're probably going to be 9 to 12 metres wide. And I'm not certain that offsetting them by 1 metre is going to help that very much. They're going to need to be constantly trimmed, and they're going to be trimmed with a much larger space than normal because of the Vodafone cable line. Yeah, the concerns I've got with the lines, they're south of the power lines. So the trees are here, the power lines here, the sun's up here, the trees are going to be growing towards the lines, and also every time there's a southerly, they're going to be possible damage. Happening trees. I expect my street to look somewhat like this.
Crazy, isn't it?
So, up in Auckland, the council there have been getting stick for the bee pruning to trees. We shouldn't have the bee pruning problem because they're offset, but this is what happens. When the lines are slightly offset, you get a side prune or an old prune or a C prune, and it's not always a good look. This is a Pac-Man tree that's about a block from my house under the power lines with the Vodafone cable. As you can see, the trunk of the tree is 2 meters out from the lines, and the hole has to be extra big to allow for the Vodafone cable. The second issue I've got is dropped leaves. I used to live in a quiet street in Shirley, which had deciduous trees all the way along. And we were constantly getting blocked gutters and drains. And we were having even from driveway flooding when the leaves blocked my laundry outlet, and I was doing a lot of washing, all the way up to the whole road flooding because leaves were getting in the drains. And the vacuum truck was constantly coming out, but it didn't seem like it was coming at the right times. And that was on a quiet street. Hereford Street's a very busy street. There's a lot of cars, so I won't do an easy job for the vacuum truck. And I know from experience that sending the truck at night is a good option. I used to live there in the 90s, and I had so many sleepless nights here. Just the Hereford Street, and 5 minutes later, Wilson Street, just yeah, not good. And the last issue with drop leaves is the personal burden for residents to collect them. So my garden's, I'm quite overwhelmed with it as it is, and I've got health issues that make it difficult for me to keep it up. And the additional burden to me of having to collect a 3 load of leaves every time there's a storm, I don't see how I can keep up with that.
I mean, do it. I'll do it.
There we go. So, yeah, if there must be trees on, so can we have evergreen trees, perfectly naked trees? And the third reason is parking, which is more an issue for me than some of the other places on my street, but I'm in quite a high density area. I've got 12 neighbours directly on one side, I've got 6 or 7 directly on the other, and they're all parking on the streets. And when visitors come to visit me, they struggle to find a single park in front of my house. So yeah, I just would really like to not have a tree taking up one of these very valuable parking spaces. So in summary, I don't think trees are compatible with Hereford Street because of power lines, the leaf dropping, and the pipe parking. And I've got suggestions of planting shorter trees that might impact the lines, planting native trees that might drop leaves, and not putting one specifically from my house where I need to car parks. And it's me.
Oh, thank you. Are there any questions for Anna? Yeah, thank you. You've made your points very clear. Very well said. And we will be getting to that item very soon. Thank you. Right. We don't have any petitions. Correspondence, we do have one item there. So that's the correspondence from Fiona Bennett about vehicles ignoring the new 40 km/h speed limit on Rutland Street. So we need to receive that. And she's basically asking if the speeds can be monitored. So I guess we can just pass that along to police. Police or
Request
well,
staff
it's-
investigate or request staff, no.
well, if it's a
Police.
speed issue, then it's
Yeah.
police, isn't it?
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, she also recommended easier to read signs. and
Yes.
perhaps a reminder sign on Western Road.
Yeah.
Which would be, I guess, our, council.
Okay, so we'll ask staff to investigate the effectiveness of the existing signage. And whether any signage is needed.
Emma, I just got something on that too, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Simon.
Thank you. My understanding is following implementation of the safer speed zone for Papanui, there is an obligation on the council to monitor compliance and potentially to consider further changes if there isn't a sufficient sort of shift or if speeds aren't in line with posted limits. I'm not sure what the timing of that is. I'm imagining it might take a little while, but I'm wondering if we could just check in with staff specifically for this area, seeing as it's been raised by the public. Is there a plan to for staff to monitor the effectiveness of the implementation of the lower speed? And if that's a little way out, is there any opportunity maybe to bring it forward and have a look at that?
There's any consolation there on Manchester Street 2 mornings ago, until 8.
Yeah, I heard they were on Westminster Street.
So it sounds like
too.
they are.
Yeah.
But we need it officially.
Yes. So we can follow that up with staff. Mark's making a note of that.
Moved on from that.
No, we're still on that correspondence item. Mark's
and-
figuring out what to write.
Monitoring. That will capture it, and I'll just give them some notes on that. Does that sound right?
Not sure we can't. Are you able to get it back up on the screen so that we can see it?
Rightio, what's happened?
Yeah.
Good. Making progress. Here we go.
So we've got there, receive the correspondence from Fiona Bennett and request staff to investigate the effectiveness of the signage and monitoring. Does that capture what you're after, Simon?
I'm not wanting to investigate the effectiveness of the monitoring. Maybe it's just the way that sentence is constructed. I'm asking for feedback from staff on the monitoring of the implementation and effectiveness of the reduced speed.
So whether it is being monitored, you want confirmation that monitoring is happening.
Yeah, and if it's going to be when.
Information on when monitoring will be happening.
Yeah.
Most of that monitoring and feedback to us, so that we're aware of that process for them.
Yeah, because yes, as Simon says, it was part of that when we approved that speed zone. And then I think we should also add in there about forwarding the concern onto police. Yep, that looks good to me. Everyone else okay with that? Yep, so we need a mover and a seconder for that. John and Emma seconded it. We'll put that motion. All those in favour?
All right.
Carried.
Sorry, I see.
Oh, did you have something else?
Yeah, sure. Did you want to put Mr. Watts's correspondence in here or just raise it under elected?
Just raise it under elected members information exchange. Yeah. Great, that takes us to item 8, which is the Greening the East approval for tree plantings and parking changes project. So I've got Corinne and Laurie, sorry. Welcome along, and I'll get you to just first up speak to the report. Obviously, we've all read it, but if there's anything you'd like to highlight or anything, and maybe if you could also address the suggestions that Anna brought up in the deputation, that would be great. Thanks.
Are you controlling enough?
You should be able to control once I.
So basically here today to update the community board on Greening the East planting project. You recall we came in December and presented the project itself. And following that, we'd like to propose that the community board have approved for us to go to detailed design. So just going to run through the project scope, tree species within design, and then engagement and communication.
That's
Cool. So project scope, we're delivering on the Greening the East development plan. Choose this one here, addresses the opportunities and action of the plan, as well as the aspirations of community members and the community board itself to increase green space and coverage in the neighbourhood. Supports the Budget City Council tree policy, the urban forest plan, and the climate resilience strategy. The scope runs from Fitzgerald out across to Linwood Ave. And you'll see the tree canopy cover currently for the area is around 10%. So we're wanting to improve that. Okay, the project includes planting 2 new trees on Woodford Street, 20 new trees into existing berms on Cashel Street. So the trees on Worcester Royal Green berms, and then 27 trees into build outs on Hereford Street, which is the piece that I was talking about, with landscaping beneath the trees as well. But that part of the project won't be until next year. We have split funding. Where we can, we are aiming to increase tree canopy cover without impacting on existing parking arrangements. However, there are a lot of underground and overhead infrastructure in place. So we need to be aware of that, obviously. The 27 trees along Hereford Street will involve the removal of car parking spaces along that street, but the spaces are not delineated by any lines or individual spaces themselves. Hereford Street will plant the
So they're having issues.
moving on. The Hereford Street is planting the Tilia trees. So I hope you touch that picture.
Okay, it's it, yeah.
Oh, it's a bit small, but
We put it.
can you put it on
We
the
don't
screen?
want a full screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just having issues swapping that over.
Sorry, hold my notes there.
Stop sharing.
Yeah. That's where
So
they-
these, trees on Cranford Street are around 70 years old. They have been, hollowed in the past, but, we're expecting, once the trees are fully grown, they'll be very similar to the trees in Cranford Street. They're located, around, 2.5 meters from the lines, as they've been planted in the road. And we've talked to Orion about removing the lighting cable, which they can do to provide more clearance. So once that lighting cable is removed, they'll be around 2.5 meters from the lines, and as they grow, they'll grow up and over the lines. There may be some hanging under the lines also. But we don't anticipate it to be a severe compromise on the tree form.
We have a number of trees, we have a number of trees in council that are historic, that are being maintained, and we're working through, and I believe we're currently, I think we started on 800 problem trees, and we're now down to about 400. So the City Street team are looking at how we are maintaining those, and moving forwards, obviously we want to get away from that totally altogether. So that's why we're looking to plant these away into the road as well. Yeah. I don't know if I can get the presentation. I can again.
I'm trying to.
In Worcester and Cashel Street, we plan to plant some Yoshino flowering cherries. You'll notice in the report, we had initially looked at some manor ash trees. However, after discussing this with Orion, they have requested that we look at some alternative, so slightly lower growing. So that has been a chosen tree now. So where we've previously identified the manor ash 2 going into Worcester Street and then into Cashel Street, they will now be the flowering cherry trees, and they are happy with that. Although the manor ash still do meet council policy, we've chosen a slightly smaller tree to help with that situation as well. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a fairly easy fix for Orion's concerns, in that we had additional flowering cherries in the nursery that we could just swap out the manor ash for. The manor ash, they can grow reasonably well under power lines, but Orion still had concerns to address those concerns for species.
If I can just go back a slide to the car parking survey slide. I'll just talk to addressing some of Miss Mellon's concerns. We undertook a parking survey for the area, and it showed that the average uptake of the street parking space has not exceeded 40%. So it gives us some confidence that there are car parking spaces still available on the street. It's just that affected residents might need to park, might not be able to park directly outside of their own home. They might need to park further down the line, but it does show that there is parking available. It could also show up the pink grant that's happening. I don't know if it does it, but it does individually. I do appreciate there are many more apartments and residential homes saying that.
It is.
Well, that was the survey. Just flowering cherry on the left. Just to give you an idea of where the budget goes, it's quite a lot of detail that goes into the actual tree and the design itself. So it's not just planting it into the ground. With regards to engagement, we sent around letters, within 21 consultation letters in December. Residents were able to provide feedback until middle of January. three responses were received, Ms Milling and Mr Chisholm and Mr Ray. Main concerns were the removal of car parking outside of the property, concern for the overhead electrical lines, and Mr Chisholm and Mr Ray have a existing tree within their property. One of Laurie's colleagues, James, has been out and had a look at the tree, and he believes that tree will not be affected, and in fact it could be a good successor for the front tree that's going to be continually parked on.
And we're Pauline Jake.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really supportive of the project, but I'm really concerned about these, this is, and as you say, they were pollard, and you can tell because when you pollard them, they tend to, you know, bunch out. So are you intending to not pollard the ones you put in?
Well, they will grow at all, yeah, but that was the best example we could find.
Yeah, but aren't they too small for innocent streets? And so you get that whole shading you can do with people's homes and then the open process as well that we need to create. This is like a balance. This is what I'm concerned about. So the canopy trees should really be in parks and in places where you see Creek Street is, they're miles away from houses. It's at the very top, you know. So I do have a concern about that.
So
Why does it have to be that one? Because the other ones you've got areas and the other ones.
But they're much smaller and they're in the berms, they don't create that kind of effect, so when you're building out into the road. And we don't have all the berms to be able to plant into it, so.
we're bringing the East Plan calls for large growing trees in Cricket Street. In the road, so we have looked at the possibility of boundary encroachment. We don't believe there will be a significant amount of branches growing over the property boundaries. There's not a lot of trees going into the southern side of the street, like the majority are going on the northern side. The density of the planting is going to be quite sparse right down the whole street.
Yeah. And would you keep the branches of the trunk as it goes up?
Yes, we'd provide clearance over the footpath and the road initially, and then as the tree develops around the power lines, will be lifted up over the lines. Ultimately, there may still be some branches under the lines, but
okay, all right. Yeah. And the other thing is, would it be an issue if there was one minister tree planted outside someone's house in the winter?
The problem is, I guess, it wouldn't, not at all, but it does set a precedence for future planting. If everybody came along and said, well, actually, I like the idea of the tree, but I don't want it outside my house, so we're just trying to set a standard from the start that we want to plant. We're ideal with the Green Lease plans to plant 40 trees. That's what we're aiming to do. And one or two trees is not is. Yeah.
So you're saying that you've addressed most of the issues in one area. It's not going to be you know, cut. It's not.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
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 What about leaf drop? Are they major?
they do have some, obviously, which so there will be some leaf drop. It'll be significantly less than in the section of Linwood Avenue and yeah, that's right.
Laurie, you said that, I mean, even deciduous trees will leaves as well.
Evergreens.
As you say, more space.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Can I just add one more thing about the planting outside of properties, but if you're following the city the tree policy, that's like residents can have input into the positioning of the tree outside the property, but not necessarily whether a tree is going to be planted or not. So we're following that policy in this case. However, usually that would mean the tree that planted in the dirt and not affecting parking. So there may be other factors that, influences around us.
That's a good point.
These are the locations that we've identified that we could potentially plant trees. It might be that we come along and we do some potholing and it is not possible to plant that tree as well. So this is all based on the information that we have with the underground and overhead infrastructure.
Jake?
So you're saying, I mean, when you were here previously, you said, look, put it into pipe and put a tree everywhere, a tree potentially can go, i.e. you couldn't put any more, it's not a budgetary issue.
If we wanted a big tree, the timber tree, we can't, there's no locations. For
Right, the smaller trees in the future we could do.
Yeah.
Right, okay, right. So.
One or two that can cover.
And you look like it's.
Only the Burns and Griffith Street are very narrow as well, so they do need to go into the
Tree pits, right? But if we were to say double the budget, could you do any more trees? You could do some more trees.
I can't answer that off the top of my head, but there are a lot of underground services. It may be possible to plant more trees, but
Because the reason I asked the question and the reason I want to know is because if this is the maximum possible amount of trees that size on the street, and then we say no on these two locations, plus there is also some no's that come when you do your investigations, we might be down not just 2 trees, we might be down like 5 or 6 trees. And that's something I want to know before it weighs into my decision on the 2 discretionary trees that we're considering probably. Is this approximately 2.5 meters from, or is it further or this far?
Doesn't look like
I haven't actually measured.
So it's just the type of the tree, it's not necessarily.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, and even the tree pit designs are quite different. So from one road to another, like Southwark Street, one that I'm doing as well, that is completely different design than tree pit compared to what Heritage Street is.
Right. Cool. And I guess 2 other questions, which is, do you know what percentage of canopy cover this increases that area by? I mean, I imagine it's relatively minor in the scheme of things, but.
I don't do that.
It is likely to be minor, but it is going to be an increase.
It's a start.
Yeah, cool. And if 2 trees of your 20, probably 20, 27, 26, yeah, on don't go ahead, what would that be? It's just more likely that the project would come in under budget.
So
What would be the consequence if 2 trees didn't happen, you didn't pay for the that's everything like that at that stage? Would it be more likely that there was money left over at the end of it?
Probably not much, because everything has taken a lot more time when we talk about this stuff. I'm not going to probably it might be a little bit less, but I can say at this stage. And like I said, the Hereford Street plantings will be next year. So it also depends on what construction tender might come in for this year as well, for those woods to impact how much that's going to cost, and then so we're kind of splitting that. Yeah, it depends on the construction and as well.
Okay, yeah,
it's a little bit. Potentially, it could come under. Yeah,
right.
So probably it would go 10K per tree.
Right. Because I'm just wondering, really, that it did come under. There's a strong political argument there for the needs of plantings and not to go. And if we're actually 10 down because we didn't plant 2 trees, give us 2 more somewhere else, essentially.
And I guess there are other trees within that development plan still where we plant them.
Yeah.
There might be trees that are also replacing as well. So.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay, we'll go Ellie and then Victoria and then Emma. No, okay, so Ellie and then Victoria.
Thank you. My questions are around the engagement. Are you concerned that out of 121 consultation letters sent out essentially the week before Christmas, that you only got 3 people responding?
I mean, it is a difficult time of year, I agree. I feel that I haven't got the detail, and there are a lot of rental houses there, as well as not so many people that actually own the property there. So potentially that could be why we didn't get as much feedback. But I don't have the data on that, I'm afraid. Perhaps Kieran, I have that, and I'll be able to supply that at a later date if you require that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry, voice from above. No, I can, I add a bit more to that. From experience, usually when we send out letters and don't get a huge response, we only typically we would only hear from people who are either very passionately for or against the proposal. So, I mean, it is reasonable to assume that out of 121, if we only have heard from 3, those properties or residents probably did not feel complete super strongly, I guess, for or against the proposal, and we're happy with the proposal.
Wow, hang on a minute. Whoa, I think that's a hell of a jump. an assumption, to be frank. And I'm questioning the period, the time frame that this was sent out. So a week before Christmas, over the holiday period, deadline, the second week of January, still the holiday period. I think with respect to say that, you know, we didn't hear from many people perhaps, and I may have misheard you, suggests that most of them are in favour of the project is a heck of an assumption. What I'm concerned about is that, you know, our community board aligns with the council's Strengthening Communities Together strategy, which is about people, place and participation. And what I'm seeing here is very little participation. And I know when we were doing the cycleways along the Papanui Parallel, when we got pretty poor feedback from people, the council was very proactive about going out and ensuring that there was participation. I think losing 28 car parks along here in an area that has got a lot of underground infrastructure, and we've heard concerns about the power lines as well. I'm really concerned at the lack of engagement here, and I don't think the council has a mandate to essentially do this.
But Victoria.
Thank you. Ali's actually raised the issues that I had in relation to engagement, and just raised it probably more eloquently than I could have. The next issue that I'd like to move on with is I've got some sympathy for Anna, and I think her and for coming along and talking to us today. Who was it that makes the decision or the recommendation for the tree? And my question is associated with that. Are you satisfied this is right tree, right place? And who's making those decisions? Is it a transport engineer? Is it a planner? Is it an arborist? Are you satisfied we've got the right tree, right place?
I'm an arborist, and so we've I was involved in parts of the design, including the tree selection, and we did that in consultation with the operations arborists who were going to manage the trees. We've looked at the trees that do really well around the city, so it's planting something that's going to thrive and contribute to the canopy cover and meet the requirements of the plan, the green needs plan. Tilia's are planted a lot around the central city. It's been quite funded. And the central city, and they just do quite well in that sort of environment where they've turned to quite a hard sort of road kind of planting situation. The size of the tree will meet the requirements of the plan. It's better to plant deciduous trees of a large size to reduce shading. Yeah, so we did consider a lot of things, and also the power lines was another factor. The type of tree that would actually grow up and around the power lines. Orion didn't have concerns specifically around this type of tree near power lines. Yeah, there was a lot that went into it. Yeah,
I think it's just encouraging people who are listening to understanding science and that goes on and the different background of those things. My final question is really around what is the knock-on effect if we say, listen, agree not to put a tree in front of one person's property because they came along and said, I don't want to. On those to use the word precedent at the table. Expectation perspective. Have you got any comments to make about what the knock-on effect would be if that decision on made?
I guess we're seeing more planting tree projects coming up for our council, so it's difficult to say whether those projects in mind. Yeah, I don't know what the effects would be. As for the sponsor of the project, I did take that question to him whether or not we could just permit those trees, and he was concerned about not planting trees where the resident had concerns for it. And that was the report's recommendation that we put to plant all some trees. So I can't say that people focus.
It really depends on the reason, doesn't it? So if it's parking loss, people don't own the street. Yeah. And the other things you have to explain that we can better place. So that just raised the final issue. Sorry.
No, you're right.
And that is in relation to pressure on parking. I see from this presentation you only do it on one day on the weekend and one day during the week, are you satisfied with the days that you measure the parking usage are representative of how it's used over one period of time?
I've discussed this with the company that did the analysis. He said that was the normal thing to do one day in the weekend and one day during the week. He's done it for quite a few number of council projects as well. He was satisfied, and I felt that it was not too late in December. We mentioned the holiday period, so it was early enough in December to get a good representation of one busy day on a Saturday and one day midweek. I felt confident that it was, and the fact that it was still only 40% is still the reason that I can't say it's available along the street.
Thank you.
Hold on, Emma, I'm just going to jump in there because I've got a question, Ali, and then we'll come to you. I've just got a question on the parking, so we're already on that. The parking surveys were done between 7 AM and 5:30 PM. Being that this is a high density area, I would imagine that a lot of the parking demand is overnight. So if we're not taking that into account, how accurate is that less than 40% demand figure? Yeah, do you really think we need more to comment on that? The fact that it was only done during those daytime hours?
I guess what we're thinking is Saturday would kind of be what an evening would look like as well.
Right.
And that thoughts.
Right.
Okay. Emma and then Ali.
Well, my question is the same as yours, so I'll say
Okay, Ali.
Oh.
Yes, sorry. My question also about thanks, Emma, that's what I was going to ask about the residents parking after hours. Are you aware of, and did you look at any plans for intensification or potential intensification in the area?
No, we didn't.
Okay. And also, no, that's all. Thank you.
Another question, Emma?
Well, it was just on the intensification as well. I was going to ask how many vacant lots are there and the age of the housing. So it's what seems to happen is the old houses coming down, pumps that's going up, and of course nowadays they can be put up with no parking whatsoever. Yeah, that's the case in there as well. Yeah. Again, if that comes out, so where are you expecting them? So you haven't taken into consideration intensification, no, and I wouldn't know the number of bank shops or it just looks like it when you look at it. Because there's salary needs, it's hard to say, and when you walk on the street, there's like now, where was that? I was and that's the same throughout the city. There's just more and more identification, the same as other street, there's a whole integration and what has been dealt with in parking, so it's the same on a lot of streets, but I think actually have the figures for the identification on the street and
Any more questions for staff? Right. Did you just want to comment quickly on the changes that have been made to the resolutions, just to explain?
Yes, those changes are due to the conversations that we've had in Orion since creating the report and to this day here. We tried to get a meeting with Orion earlier, but unfortunately it was impossible to get the right number of people in the room. So we just changed the minor ash to the flower and cherry for Worcester Street package.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a mover and a seconder?
Can I push? Oh, no, I'll wait for a second.
Do we have a mover and a seconder for the resolutions as they are?
Yeah.
Victoria and Pauline?
Can I push the same resolution, but with the exclusion of the trees at 523 and 317?
Do we have a seconder for that? Anita? Right, so we put this, we'll do the substantive motion first. So want to debate that one? Anybody?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to go first or and last, or just first or last?
I'll go last.
Okay, go ahead, Ali.
Okay, look, with respect to my board member colleagues, questioning trees and whether the tree's appropriate or not, I really think that that's something that the experts need to consider and recommend. I wouldn't want to be getting into that conversation. What I'm concerned about is, and this has already been raised, is what I see as a pretty ineffective and unacceptable level of engagement. You know, I know an intensification in our board plan, it quite clearly says what the board will do. A, promote and support quality engagement practices, and B, encourage the community to be active and participate in any decision making that may influence outcomes to their neighbourhoods. Well, I think this ticks those boxes, and I just don't see that 3 out of 121 people, even especially as it's rentals, you have to be more proactive to try and engage the neighbourhood if mainly the people living there are renting and are tenants. And I just don't see that happening here. I mean, you could turn this around the other way and say that nearly 70% of the feedback you had was against this initiative. So, you know, what are we doing? Are we going against what the majority want? So I can't support this today. I think that a lot more work needs to be done from an engagement and community participation perspective. We've done it before over the cycleways in our ward, and I think we should be doing it here as well.
Thanks, Ellie. Pauline?
You know, this is a tricky one, and but I feel comfortable that the staff have addressed the main issues that Anna brought to us, and that's the cat land issue will not happen. And because of the Spartan nature of the plantings, I don't think the leaf crop's going to be a massive problem. And as for parking, well, there's not a lot. We don't own the roads outside our homes, and that's a really difficult one when you're trying to bring environmental enhancement and putting a car above the motor vehicle above there. So I think what the benefit that these trees are going to bring to the environment and the amenity of the area, which is so lacking in trees. I was concerned about the size of those trees, but I feel comfortable that we address that and it's not going to look like Savine Street. So yeah, I will support that today, and I apologise to Anna that we feel it's going to have some grief over this, but I don't think you will. I think you'll find the amenity will actually make up for it.
It's Pauline. Simon.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to acknowledge the members of the public that have submitted on this and provided further information and feedback as well. And thanks to staff for the report and for the explanation. I've listened to all of that and looked at all the material. 100% agree with Ali's comments around participation, and I think that's a challenge for us as a board and for the council in general. My thoughts on this are that we're in a climate and ecological emergency, and also that we have, as a council, and there's public weight of opinion behind a drive to increase a tree canopy as a city. And for me, just picking up on Pauline's comments, for me, I'm not comfortable prioritising public space being used for the storage of private property cars when there is an opportunity to put a number of trees in an area where the parking demand is, as it's been shown to us. So I will support the motion that's on the table. Kia ora.
Jack?
Yeah, it is a tough one. I'm quite torn as well. I do think with this project, it's supposed to be a feel-good project that the whole community can get on board and love. You know, this is about making this part of Christchurch a bit greener and have a higher community value like some other parts of town. I'm not so worried about the community. I'm still not sure how I'll go on the substantive, but I wanted to make sure there was a foreshadow there so that if it doesn't pass, that actually a tweaked version that responds to the concerns that the community have raised is still on the table and still live, and we get a good outcome as well. I'm not concerned about I won't use the word precedent, but the community expectation that sets, because as the staff have mentioned, it's a slightly different scenario. Not wanting some feedback on a berm is a hell of a lot different to not wanting feedback. It's a hell of a lot different to not offering feedback when a whole parking space is taken up. I do think that largely people are pretty happy with this, and I think if we can make a small tweak to keep everyone happy by not going ahead with 2 of these trees, then that's a totally valid and good decision that we could make as well.
Emma?
I am all for planting new trees in our city. And I'm also for changing our streetscapes away from being car parks. I just feel for the people who are affected directly from it at the moment, because our council and ECAN are not keeping up with the necessary changes that are required in our transport options to allow people to be living without cars. So, like, it's a little bit like putting the cart before the horse at the moment for a lot of our residents in Christchurch, who are actually suffering today because of the changes we're trying to make tomorrow. And I'd really like to see the council push those transport options further. And I'd like us to see, as a community board, to be pushing hard to get those as done as quickly as planting trees.
Sunita?
Thank you. I just want to remind the board that this is a long-term consultation has been taking place. People have expressed their interest to have more green canopy around that area. So with the engagement, I am not denying that we should do better in terms of engagement. But we are eyes and ears of our community as well. And I agree that Christmas time, maybe not an ideal time to engage with people, but I would not discount that people have already expressed from a long time. Greening the East project has been, we've been involved with it a long time, and we'd like to see that. I am really appreciative of Anna and Terry to be here, and I would like to see that their concerns we have addressed as well. Corinne, as you mentioned, that down along the line, we might put something which will result in not planting tree there, right? So, and in that case, it will become more technical, and we will have no choice of not having, a tree there. But at this point of time where we can accommodate everybody's need, I would support that.
I'll go next, and then we'll come to you, Victoria. I'm also very torn on this one, hence why I've waited till last and heard everyone else's views before speaking. I completely understand where residents coming from that have objected to this, and I sympathise with you, and thanks for coming along, Anna. I think, as Sunita said, we have to look back on where this is coming from, and the Greening the East project and the plan, and the fact that that was backed by the previous community board that had community representatives on the working group for that plan. And I think we need to come back to that and the intent of that project. With regards to what Ali said about 70% of submitters objecting it, they weren't objecting the whole thing, they were objecting one tree each. So I think we need to just remember that there weren't objections to the rest of the trees. So I am going to support this today, and I thank staff for your work on that, and I look forward to seeing further years down the track the difference that this will make in that neighbourhood. Victoria.
Yeah, thank you. It's recognised by everyone else at the table. There's a lot of issues to play here today. And I'd like to acknowledge the public that turned up to come speak to us. I hear others' concerns, so we're going to raise those ourselves around engaging them, and I do recognise it's not ideal, and we should be doing better. Timing is a really obvious one to me. So I think that we're going to improve on that. As Pauline said, she's satisfied around the issues that the resident brought us have been addressed by staff, and I'm saying with that. In particular, I asked a question around my free right place because I wanted us to be able to understand who's making this decision. On the parking side, I know the results of parking survey so that there is some room, so I'm not convinced that the privilege is remain really with the lead, but I do understand it's very topical issue. I think from a housing intensification perspective, it's a really double-edged sword because there's the implications for parking, there's no denying that. But on the flip side of that, we have to be planting more trees and providing more green spaces in these neighbourhoods. We don't intensify the neighbourhoods from a perspective, and we cannot be relying on the developers and the public to be planting those trees. We've got an opportunity to do that. We should be putting them. I know Simon's comments on the climate emergency and the need for climate resilience actions, and this is one of those examples where we can take some action. There's lots of ways in which we can deal with a climate emergency, and this is one of those. We should be taking the opportunity. Very supportive of the constituency campaign. And at the end of the day, since part of this is going to add benefit to our environment and our local communities.
Thanks, Victoria. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. Could I have that noted, please?
Noted.
Yeah, me too.
Jack's abstained as well. Cool, but that is carried. Thank you. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Move on now to item 9, licensed to occupy tables and chairs, high street triangles to C1 Cafe. I'm happy to move this. Is that seconding it, Pauline? Put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
That's carried. And item 10,
Thank you.
Adventist School Grants Road proposed no stopping and P3 parking restrictions.
I'm happy to move it.
Victoria's moved it. Ali, you can second it. Put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. And item 11. Got discretionary response fund applications from Friends of Edmonds Factory Garden Incorporated and St Albans Residents Association. And I know Emma's standing aside for the one of those, St Albans one. Cool. Welcome, Stacey.
This is the Friends of Edmonds Factory Garden. This group originally applied to our events and festival fund, but because they were only applying for 2.5K, the minimum fund is $5,000. So staff talked to me and I talked with them and we swapped them to our DRE. So this is for a event early next year, and by all accounts, they've done it before and it's had some really good community outcomes.
The questions, go ahead, Emma.
Instead of putting it back on the RCA fund, in the resident fund, are they able to go for treatment expenses, put it over the 5,000?
I think it's minimum purely, the minimum is 5,000.
It's an interesting issue.
John and then Pauline.
They have one horizon from that. Could they hypothetically make the event twice as big?
If they wanted to, but the original application was for 2,900. And for the events fund it was, so it didn't hit the minimum spend. So yeah. But if they wanted to in the next year increase their cost and then that obviously currently we haven't got a sport and youth advisor, but Emma KB our manager is working on that. And so the hope is when that position is filled that we can get that person to work with this group to look at all the council resources we have lots of cool things we can add and borrow and lend and some advice. So yeah, our plan is to, once that person is on board, to make contact with the group to offer any support we can get.
Oh, you had more, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, my real question is going to be, thanks for your analysis, Greg. It all makes sense to me. But my question is, why aren't we funding the whole lot, the 100% of the requested amount? Rather than just
the group had a small $500 that they can contribute. So I took that off the full amount and that came to, oh no, that's. Yeah. For you to make any increases or if you would like.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pauline?
Consistently, why do we cover more than just our wards? And if so, how many, or at least it should be a split application.
It's right on the boundary, but it is maybe do it coastal knowledge, but yeah, at the time.
And so, I mean, that would help us. And the other thing is that the funding history is been a lot lower, why have they asked for so much this year? I mean, one's else in. I think in 803 years, is that what they've asked for these previously?
That's probably what, I can look in the funding history, but it's what they probably have asked previously, just with increased costs.
Well, yeah, but also is it growing and more likely that it's actually probably has people attending from different units as well. We haven't asked that question. No. Okay, thanks. Do you know much about the unmanned port? In town? Yes, massively over, probably just, massively oversubscribed by something like that. What's like who, what sort of events are going?
A lot more than try and that's one.
For some of ones to not really just
Yeah, so there's some past.
Okay, any more questions, Stacey? Do we have a mover? Victoria?
If we went to a previous today and asked for more information.
Stacey.
Well, yeah, no, it's the big is all February next year, so
Because I'm interested in months, months past and just thinking of what putting set around, this is like double and a bit more from what we've had in the past, so is it a sort of event?
I support maybe on the table, especially looking at that information, is it a split application with other,
As another one we can make contribute to it as well.
Okay, well, we're gonna split this. We're gonna split these two anyway, so that you can vote on this one, but not the Sarah one. So if there is an appetite for it, we can decide to lay it on the table and get that information.
Yeah, but I prefer to do that. It is more comfort. Just to find out a little bit more about what's going to be different about this one. Previous years, how will it be attended? And is it going to be as fun with what
In the interest of being collegial, I'm happy to lay it on the table, but I just want to signal that when it does come back, it should be split, but when it does come back, we'd be looking to grant the full.
Yeah, there's a few on there.
Yeah, and also if we can only fund, we don't fund like this, really, normally. Yeah, that's well, you've got to have one set of rules, because that guy's changed, that like Chris that plays in the town, no. So
I don't remember not funding what I think.
you can't really
Yeah, I'm
ball and stuff like
so
that.
can we have more clarification about the cost,
yeah, I'm not sure about that, not funding live music, so I'm sure we'll
I've seen
funded.
that we don't, but I did think. London at Sarah's, what was something in would be and they wouldn't fund it. They couldn't fund it.
All board will fund it.
Yeah, we can get clarification on that.
That'd be good.
Yeah,
Because then we can look at changing it if it's.
yeah, okay.
It's not going
So we need a resolution for that, so later on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, so Victoria's moved, Pauline seconded to lay it on the table. Pending that further information. So need to do something.
By the next meeting.
I just wanted to say that we have funded in Linwood Board earlier, live music, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get clarification on that. So we'll put that motion, all those in favour.
Aye.
Come back.
Sorry,
Yeah,
pending.
that's fine. Yeah, that's right. Next meeting would be great.
By the next meeting.
And they can go back and say it's not that it's shooting it down.
Yes, well, we do have one of the representatives in the room, so.
Done.
Right, so that was Victoria and Pauline, and that's carried.
Hopefully leave up that more anyway.
Yeah.
And so we'll move to the St Albans Residents Association one.
This is for the St Albans newspaper class for the next 3 months. They have a strengthening communities education and so they've built the printing costs into their strengthening communities education. So this is the shortfall for the next 2 months.
So in the past, they've been able to manage the funding this by themselves.
Yes,
They haven't needed.
just the cost of printing, the decrease in advertisement.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a shortfall.
How much does this whole operation, I mean, it's great, obviously, there, what's the whole chain hurdle for the new cedar?
I think about all up between 25 and 30 per year. But obviously this is for
Yeah, just yeah.
in July.
I should probably notice what's the readership of this numbers was.
It's delivered to 7,000 homes. And then
Plus local businesses.
yeah, local businesses. But we have chatted about sustainability and online membership going forward as all of our business association newsletters and need to agree at some stage.
So we've chatted about other any
Oh.
ways of what to do that.
They are going to go away and look at how to go forward. So they are thinking about that for the future.
So the question is, how much of the total cost does the newspaper fund itself?
We're advertising,
So what proportion?
It's 9. So about 80%.
Not 20%, I see.
They fund 80% of their.
Yeah. All right, I think.
Pauline's moved it. We have a seconder. Sunita. Does anyone want to speak to it? No?
Yeah, I do support the comments that this needs to be looked at, because I think it's considerable amount of council putting into a community newsletter. It's something that the community does expect now, people do like it, I know that. But if we readdress it in the next 3 months and see what's we can help them to make it more efficient, perhaps we could help you. Yeah, but today I support it because it's a going concern.
Yeah, I'm supporting on it, support it today, it's very soon, but I think I'm pleased to see some information coming back to us about being self-funding going forward, and use always sustainable online option.
Yeah, I'll just support those comments as well. I'm only supporting it just as a one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you. Item 12, our community board plan for 2023 to 2025.
Seats are hard even with a cushion.
So we'll take the report as read. Obviously, I'd first start. Can I just first start thank staff for all the work I've done on this, especially Emma.
Oh, is that my report? Sorry, I'll take this read. I was too busy looking because someone said there was a typo. So.
If you want to say anything else?
No, we've been through the process, we've done workshops, we've had the feedback, we've done the engagement. We've come up with the board plan as is, so I will hand it over to you.
Right, any questions from anybody? Pauline?
So
Yeah, I had one. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll come to you next, Ellie.
So what's the first things that I sent through to you? How do we address that? You want me to talk about it?
Yeah, if you hold on, Ellie, is yours a question?
Yes, it was just to ask Emma if she'd had the couple of emails through that highlight typos. There's one I just found then that I flicked through to you, Emma.
Yeah, that one thankfully isn't me, so I'll follow up on that one.
Okay, no, that's cool.
So on to those, and we'll be able to tweak those in the final document before it goes online.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so my one was on page 79. Our vision, I wanted to include digital equity in there. That the community board will advocate for digital equity, just noting that there's only 84% household access to the internet. I think it's something we should be looking at. And then the other one was, and I think the chair put in there to do this because it's late, it's very naughty. But only was reading through the submission process, double think about it. On page 86, with the Sherry Community Reserve, what the board will do, first point engagement with the community too, and I wanted to put the word to determine and realise the vision. because the vision hasn't really been determined as yet, so, just a lot of the board would like to be chief communicator.
That's a bit of political equity issue.
On page 79.
I must have glossed over that a little bit.
Key statistic here.
Yeah, my issue is, I understand the concept. We can provide equity of opportunity, got very little control over our equity of outcome. I'm just not sure what we can be doing for it, or I'm not clear on what it is you are asking.
Sometimes groups top up, we provide laptops and training and things like that, so we those sorts of things are available, we do.
And also with supporting measures,
library.
So the wording would be enabling, facilitating, supporting initiatives to try and achieve.
Yeah, what's staff got any suggestions on reading? Enabling and supporting digital equity. Yes.
That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Just kind of think of a broad way of enabling, which is pretty.
Enabling and supporting that, isn't it? And then the next one is,
Next one, it was just the addition of 2 words in there. To determine and. Determine and realise.
thank you.
That's right, it's a one-off Pauline, won't let it happen again. Date.
Just a small one, I'm not sure I actually hear, but we'll raise it. I noticed that in page 89, there's the photos, some of which are from this term and some of which I noticed me and Pauline most notably are from the previous term, which is perhaps Pauline's request, but
Are you still in nappies?
but I mean, I don't actually like my photo from this term, so I'm happy to roll with it. I just wanted to know that it is.
You're right.
Yeah, and that's, you're talking per terms. So I don't.
That's okay, it makes it fair, no, everybody's in current.
I'll take that.
Didn't you? Jones one's from about 15 years ago.
Okay, right, so. what's
Emma,
that?
sorry, I've got. a quick
Oh,
one.
Simon, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick one. Firstly, I agree with Pauline's amendments or suggested amendments. Thank you. My question is just maybe if there's a couple of typos being picked up, I wonder if the motion should be that we adopt the plan and authorise the chair to fix any typos or words to that effect.
I'm pretty sure I read it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, I've been through it. That's one typo is the council document. That's
Minor and typographical changes.
Oh,
That's it. Thank you.
and the other one, but taking board, I can tweak wording and tweak photos.
Okay, is that all right, Simon?
Yes, happy with that. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm happy to move this. Do we have a seconder? Okay, we can hand up first. Do we not speak to it? Got Pauline.
Just thank the staff and the board and the community for the feedback. But for all the work on this, it seems like a simple enough document that we've gone over and over and over it, trying to get it right so that we know that we're on the right page to actually help our communities as much as we can and identify the issues that we have now across the 3 wards. That's quite interesting looking at some of the data in there. Actually, I found it quite fascinating, but a lot of the facilities are actually in the central ward. Like pools and but anyway, we've got gaps and we'll be looking at those. Now this is a guiding document. And I'm I'm hoping it's a living document as well. So we can actually be very good as we go on and make changes. So thank you, everyone. And it's been well, that first session we had that workshop on with the sticky things was fun. Brilliant. And that was good. Okay, thank you. I'll support it.
Simon.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge my colleagues on the board for feeding into this and for staff for working with us to pull together the document, and then especially the community organisations and the individuals, members of the public who have submitted on it and fed back into this. And yeah, I think we've really got something that really nails all of that. And yeah, likewise, look forward to during this term, progressing work on these issues, hopefully to the extent that we can bring some additional things through as we tick off a few things along the way. Kia ora.
Anyone else? No, I'll just finish off by saying, as my colleagues have already said, thank you to staff for all the effort that's gone into this and to board members. It's been, I'm really pleased with the way we've managed to come to a consensus on our priorities and our vision and everything. I think it's been a really good process. Thank you to all those that's submitted on it. We got some really good feedback and that has helped shape this final document. And I think this will provide us with really good guidance throughout all our decision making across the term. I think it's a really good document to have. And as Pauline said, it will be a living document. Emma and the team will provide us with quarterly monitoring of it so we can keep a tab on how we're going, where we might be missing things, and work our way through it efficiently and effectively. So thank you to everyone for your work on this. And with that, I will put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye. Aye.
That's carried. Thank you.
Excellent.
Our area report for May.
Maybe to take in questions, but just to note that the Walking Bristol, there were a couple of cool events in our ward. Eva put the going on the bear hunt and dogs day out. And then the festival, which was a huge success as well. Yeah, but happy to take any question.
Pauline.
Yeah, look, the Unicorn Garden Awards, really intention to go back to a function for that. You know, when you looked at, did you see the one from Sprague and Cashmere? It was huge. And I really liked the fact that people get together and talk about the gardens. And I went to the University of Green Food Resilience meal they had at the Aldersgate Church a couple of weeks ago. Over 300 people there, and it was all celebrating food, and all the food was grown locally and cooked by volunteers. I think there's a great benefit in that. So, and I know it's a board decision that we did it this way because of COVID, but I'm just wondering, is there any move to?
And June will come and do a briefing about possible board benefits for the next year, and we'll get a steer from you on some options and what we would like to spend, because obviously the cost of inflation increases the money and the funding. So we'll come with some options and we'll get a steer from you, and then you'll probably make those decisions in August, September.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? No.
Well, sorry.
Okay,
Just one really probably on the downstream management on there. It sits on there, it goes on going. None of us seem to know what's going on. We keep on asking questions, not being answered. We're following it up. But then the report all looks rosy. It's not. And perhaps that needs to actually include that the board, that, well, I suppose, that we're working with the board to supply information being asked for. Not those.
Mark will make a note of that.
Yeah, that's a fair enough point. Yeah. Cool. So we will put that motion. Oh no, Pauline moved it. We have a seconder. Jake, we put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried. And finally, thank you guys. Finally, we have our elected members information exchange. And Pauline, you got your hand up first again.
Yeah, sorry, I've got a couple. Probably be good getting this. I've had just following on from Leon's presentation, Dave had a lady contact me, and I think she was going to come and speak to the board at some point, but that safety confusion at English Park. I'm wondering if we could maybe work with mainland football there and perhaps look at getting some cameras in, because the cars are getting vandalised in the car park, even in the daytime. So, yeah, but I mean, that's before we've got the kids in the just wanted to raise that and how can I do. And also in the feedback to the board plan, there was comments about, and it's been before McFarlane Park lighting. So just wondering if we might have a look at that. I know we don't want to put a grandstand bright lights, but there may be some areas that need some low lighting. And I just had, and also I just want to say that I was talking to Lane Todd the other night at the citizenship ceremony, and he said, I talked to him about engagement with the police coming to the meetings and how they'd been sort of dropped off. And he said the reason for that was COVID, because they were all on frontline stuff in the MIQ, they couldn't do it, but they really had been keen to come back. So maybe 2 or 3 times a year to come to the boards. So I just sort of feedback back in. And then just finally, I want to congratulate Simon for being voted as the co-chair for Zone 5 and 6. I think that's a fantastic achievement and couldn't think of a better person. And also thank you, Simon, for kicking away with a proactive email like that, reminding us of the survey. Hope everyone's done it with the LGNZ survey for the members. It's a very quick census, takes you about 1 minute. And also asking us to feedback to you what we're expecting of the Zone 5 and 6 community boards sector. So I just want to recognise Simon for that and thank you. And that's me.
The McFarlane Park lighting, is that the bits that we've talked about before along Atchison Ave, or is that a different area?
I don't know, it's what Graham Mitchell fed into the plan, so Trevor might know more about where they're coming from, but it is a bit of a dodgy area there, isn't it? It might be. Okay. We could just get some stuff across on it. Thanks.
We'll go Ellie and then Simon.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you, Emma, for the email you sent round, Emma Norris, with regards to DEMP. I think you absolutely nailed it with the concerns and issues, and I support 100% giving this a very large kick upstairs. The sooner we can do that, the better. I've never felt so distracted and smoke and mirrors as we were in that DEMP presentation just recently, so I really want to follow that up. I also wanted to ask from a process perspective, the issues that were raised at the last meeting that were listed in the minutes, and I'm not going to go through them all, I've cut and pasted them, but there must be 25 to 30 there. How do we ensure that there is momentum maintained with regards to addressing those things when we come to our next meeting? So that's my first question.
So you're asking about the things that were raised in members' information exchange?
Absolutely. So we're talking about the internet and technology issue. There's a whole lot of them there. I won't go through them. It's very easy to have a look at them on the minutes, but yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, they are monitored. I can send through to the members just the link to show you where they are monitored, so that you can you keep track of those. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, it's things like it says elected member promotion of how residents can use Snap, Send, Solve app. So what's the action out of that? You know, what are we doing from that in order to move it on? So perhaps I'm asking that with the list of to-dos, could we have actions from them so that we can at least have some sort of timeline and we know who's doing what? The other thing is, where are we at with the information with regards to the CNC handover? I know you're doing all you can, Mark, but we don't seem to be getting anything. And if we haven't got anything this week, which is another 2 weeks after we asked for it again, can I request that we write a letter to the Chief Executive, please?
Yeah, I raised that to come through with the information on the DEMP that we'll just get that formalised. I think it sort of has been handed over, but I want to get a bit more detail around that. And so I just reminded that in terms of that information and that memo being worked for 3 questions for the DEMP, that should be included. It would be nice to make sure that that's definitely getting in front of you.
Sorry, did I mishear you? Did you say you think, or you've been told that it's been handed over?
Well, that's the initial indication that I've had, so it'd be nice to have a little bit more clarification around that, but that's my broad understanding.
So is
Good
that
Lord.
last week or two, because the meeting basically it wasn't. Am I not thinking that wasn't the last meeting?
That was the last indication we had from staff of that, is that it had not been.
Okay, all right. Well, we're not going to resolve
Right,
it
Mark's
here.
gonna
Yeah.
clarify it
Yeah,
and
yeah.
get full picture.
Yep, great. And once we've got that full picture, again, we don't want to go on a witch hunt or point fingers, but this has just been a dog's breakfast. So I'd like to find out why it's got to this point and why we were unable to get decent information very quickly. The second part to that is, if it has in fact been handed over, the next step is who's maintaining it, because it looks awful still. So that'll be the next thing. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Simon?
Kia ora, thank you. Thank you firstly, Pauline. I'm sure she'll be back. Thanks to Pauline for acknowledging my role with the executive committee. She did give me a slight promotion. Just to clarify, I'm the Zone 5 representative. That's still 150 plus community board members. I have a colleague down south who looks after Zone 6. But yeah, I do look forward to hearing back from anybody on our board around the questions I've asked on that. Secondly, acknowledging the Anzac Day commemorations last month, and just for the reporting to the board that Victoria, Emma, Norrish and I attended the Papanui community service at the Papanui RSA and laid a wreath on behalf of the board at that service. And finally, would just like to perhaps invite one of our councillors, perhaps if they could give the board and the public who are watching this just a very brief update on where things are at with the annual plan process. That might just be interesting for us all to hear, just very briefly though.
Thanks, Simon. Sunita, you next.
Thank you. I just wanted to carry on from Pauline's point on crime prevention. So can we, my request is that board newsletter, can we include community patrols information? And just a reminder to even resident groups to circulate throughout their channels. So I think this awareness would help more, so people know that who they can, contact. Second is that I really want to acknowledge Viviana's contribution in Phillipstown Community Hub, and I would request that we send a letter of appreciation or gratitude towards her work. She's been dearly missed by her office and people, and I know that if they need any help with us in progression of whoever comes on the seat, we will support that person. So that's all.
It's a great idea. We can do that. Yep. And we'll look on the board. Who's next? Emma. Oh, no, it was you, John. Sorry,
That's okay, but somebody just covered it.
Yeah.
Regarding
Okay.
Viviana and
Emma.
Yep.
Just, so I put in a snacks in sold today in regards to the clothing bin that has been causing trouble at the corner of Aberley and Springfield Corner. And now that we've got St. John's and Edgewood Village, it's been suggested that that isn't needed anymore. I mean, there's clothes all over the street. I think it's on the footpath, so I'm wondering if it's a council thing that they can select. But you think it's on? I think it's on. I don't think it's on private land. I think it's on the footpath. The footpath's quite wide here.
So some schools don't like to just bring the stuff into the school van.
I've been into St. John and asked, and yes, they have policy of not leaving it at the door, but bringing it while they're open, and they're happy to take anything. Yeah, but this one's unmanned, and it's. I mean, the neighbours have been complaining about it for years, so it'd be nice to have a sort of excuse to perhaps get rid of it.
Okay, Mark, can you follow that up? I know they did get rid of some outside Mirabelle Mall. I know that went through the other community board as to the issues around them.
Surprised they even got them there in business.
So there may be some sort of process that.
Go put us in through the ticket number, maybe from Snacks and Support. Or
I can get that for you.
Cool, thank you.
It's 6 Everly Pheasant.
Yep.
Is the address. And also, I haven't sent it through yet, but there's also a very bad water leakage exactly in the right place. So at the moment, there's rubbish and water all over. I mean, it's scolding. It looks really bad.
Is that all?
Any feedback, Mark, on the what happened to the 3-minute parking disappearing outside of St Albans School on Westminster Street?
no, I haven't seen anything come through. It's a 3-minute parking. Oh, yeah, because
We're just wondering, so there was 3-minute parking there to improve the safety outside the school. One property turned into 2. They changed the driveway to in the middle of the car park, the 3-minute parking, and that safety's now gone. Or you know, perhaps they're allowed to park over the car park entrances during those times. School times, I don't know how they're doing it. Yeah, and I attended the ethnic community funding early on Saturday, which was nice to meet some new communities.
Jack.
I just wanted to comment on there's a piece of advice now that in this exchange that this is, you know, not for raising tickets and things like that. I just wanted to kind of understand. I'm happy to abide by that because I think it's totally sensible. Sometimes things can take you up to 3 months, but I think that we should have a shared understanding that if something's, you know, 6 months and with email, say Mark and Mark struggling, actually making it public is at the end of the day, push comes to shove, a right that we.
All right, so I want to stop that. What we kind of talked about not having is people raising it here instead of getting a ticket.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not a replacement for
so
getting
the
a
process
ticket.
is you do your own CSR.
Yeah,
you
then if
follow
nothing's
it up,
happening
you
or it's a
talk
bigger
about it,
issue,
and
yeah.
just recognizing this is like a fifth chain in the installation of your that's all.
And in all fairness, then this one on the bin was too
Oh,
far.
yeah, I wasn't,
right.
it was because of, it was because of the stuff I was gonna raise, nothing to do with what you raised, made me think of it. Emma's not a rule follower, so she's, it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
So that was, so you don't have anything else? No. Victoria?
Thanks for the prompt, Simon. I've added plan on my list, so the hearings have now finished. So what Paul and Jake say, there were really no surprises in terms of the submissions. It's just following its usual process now, and we've got a number of briefings and workshops scheduled over the next couple of weeks to hear the staff feedback and information on the issues that have been raised, how they're going to be resolved, and it's expected that the annual plan will then be adopted in about June. I haven't got the exact date, Simon, but I can find that out for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can pick up the trace of people's opinion, depending on how many, we read them all, but depending on how many annual plan submissions you guys have looked at. But we've had the thematic analysis come through, which has all the hard data. I don't know if we're allowed to share. I mean, I can't see why we wouldn't be. It's an analysis of the public document. We probably get people to see it in terms of how different questions would go.
We could. I'm not able to do that at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, cool, yeah.
Well, if it's not a public document, each.
Okay.
Have to be careful, don't you? Can we just think voice on it?
checking the voice here.
I can see the documents and maybe we need to double.
Okay, no, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Cool, we'll do
Yeah, little reasons on it. You may or may not be aware, we just launched the Be Cool Not Crawl campaign, so just to shout out to everybody that was trying to get on the surface of the plan, and we've got a pink birthday at the William Pink Birthday on the 19th of May. Just make sure we get that info and circulate around staff. We had a briefing on the resident survey results being shared with councillors, but again, I don't think that's I don't think we're yet in a position to share it with the public. But I just want you to know that we have had a briefing on it, and you can expect to hear some of those results coming back soon. And just for your information, we've got the Safe Speeds neighbourhood hearings coming up soon. I wasn't aware that it was a full council hearings panel, so I'm pleased about that. So those are being scheduled over the next few weeks. Can't comment on how many submittals we've got, but I know they're in the diary.
Is that the full city?
Yes, yes it is. They will try and break it down.
but they just couldn't, it was easier, I think, and more just. Just a reminder, we received an email about the neighbourhood plus AGM on the 21st of May, 12:15 Fens Road. I'm going to attend that. If anyone else wanted to attend,
Yeah, I'll be there.
the information's there. I've had a number of local people contacting me. One particular I want to mention is a resident who's appeared before us a couple of times, very engaged, Dave Gardner. He contacted me in relation to a meeting that was before the people from Waimari and people community board in relation to the raised platform level crossing outside Hitton Street. I don't know if you caught up with the news, but initially they had agreed to put in a crossing but not a raised platform, and then the issue got sent back to the community board because it turns out that the Waipapa funding is not available unless they also put in the raised platform. The issue that Dave raised with me was this isn't within our ward, but families and residents from within our ward attend those schools, so they are safety issues for our residents, although it doesn't come before our board. And so his question to me was, what is the process we have for our board to represent the residents on issues that affect our residents when the topic though is in another community board meeting? And I didn't know the answer to that.
That's something I thought about too with that particular proposal.
Because the catchment area for Hitton School fits within Papanui-Innes-Central, so he's raised a really valid point. We had a good outcome on this occasion because it went back to the community board and they have now approved it in totality with the raised platform. But I think it does raise an issue that we need to have a look at as to being aware of what's coming up at other community boards where catchment, particularly around schools and things, where we've got a school catchment area from our community that attends those.
Yeah, I wondered whether in an instance like this, we could go and do a deputation.
Yeah. So I think that does happen. It's not so bad.
Community board to community board.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a memory.
Yeah.
Caroline Cotton, Caroline never shied away from.
Yeah, so I think we just need to be aware of what's on their other agendas and things like that. We should be
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good point.
Wonderful to report that St James Park footpath renewals will be completed. I can't take any credit for that. It was a process before I got here, but I've had lots of wonderful emails coming from people saying how awesome it was, and I've fed that through the post. I've had quite a lengthy email from resident Gary Watts, and it's gone to a couple of others here, and I think you've got that as well. The main issue is around Paddington Park and Reserve. Without diving into all of the issues, I wonder if we can pick that up, please. He's got a ticket number. Emma, if you could just pass it on to Mark, we can try and follow it through and see if we can get some issues. It's really essentially around service damaged volleyball court and volleyball nets and placements and that. But keep an eye on that. Needs a bit of a TLC. The North West Sports Community Trust has been raised. I just want to let you know that I've been in touch with them and it intersects with my role on the trust with the community club sports club. As most of you know, I have resident meetings in Papanui and Redwood Library every week. They're really well attended. It's been really great. A lot of people book in and a lot of people just drop in. It's been great. Some of the issues I've got, I'm encouraging everyone to set these solves. And one of the requests I have is for large print options with our consultation documents. And I took it into the engagement team and they weren't doing it for our annual plan, but there will be a large print option for our long-term plans. And on this occasion, for the annual plan, I just had them print off an A3 copy, hard copy, and have it available in the library. But it is an issue that's been raised with me. So we just need to be mindful about large copy print options whenever we're doing any consultation, because people just can't read them. Just the other issues, some smattering of the topics that people are contacting me about, wanting more tree planting to be incorporated with our cycleway designs. And this particular resident's raised it in relation to Northwest Cycleway and Matson's Ave, but I think she's got a lot of knowledge in that as an arborist, and her issue is more about, I think, citywide in terms of how we're treating our design and where we're putting our trees. So I've encouraged you to feed into the annual plan and also around the plan changes 314 and intensification of the tree planting.
Yeah, I had a number of people contacting me about safe speeds. One around the corner of North Road and Farkas Road. That top end corner right by the bridge, and also St James Ave on that like real doggy corner to. I'm still doing these directories. Been contacted by a resident about Redwood Springs Reserve and a pathway extension. Pathway just stops at the edge of the new CNC corridor.
We're working on that.
You work on that, but we're pushing it through the system, and apparently it's in the plan there somewhere, and they need to get on with it. Yeah. Burnout and safe driver behaviour is constant email, phone call, text from residents, particularly around Harris Street. Encouraging people to contact the police and all them. And then finally, I met a lovely Ukrainian couple at the Anzac Day service, just relocated here a couple of weeks ago from Ukraine. A pretty compelling story. And I'm just helping to connect them with various community organisations to help them get established and settled. But if anyone's got any advice or support or can help me in that regard in terms of refugees who are trying to resettle here, I'd be really grateful for your assistance as I try and point them in the right direction. Sort of a bit beyond my remit, but it's when someone contacts you with a story like that, you don't want to say I'm sorry.
No, you should.
That's about my life.
Oh, that's very comprehensive. Thanks, Victoria. Pauline.
Sorry, there's one I left out. The Severn Street trees. The bins aren't there yet, are they?
I would be into check to be signed paperwork.
Okay. Apparently, he has to sign the paper with this bin. But I spoke to him the other day, and what he wants is a statement from the council that the trees are posing a nuisance. So I'm just wondering how we go about that. Do we agree that they are creating a nuisance? If we do, what does that do to us? What does it mean? It's not like admitting a liability or anything. Yeah, well, that's true. I just like that, but I'm just passing it on. And the thing is, we did have that site visit probably over a year ago now. And what is the action from that? I mean, we did kick it off to Ryan, who toyed around with it for a while, saying that we're doing some of that pruning that we saw in the earlier presentation.
Pauline, can I just jump in because the sound is just terrible? Did you say that the chap that put the application in for the bins for the leaves is wanting a statement from council to acknowledge that the trees are a nuisance? I just didn't hear that properly.
Yeah, yes, he does. Following the site visit that we made last year, that obviously not all board members went to, because it's new members. But I encourage people to go there and have a look. And I was down there today, this morning in the rain. He wasn't there, but I went down to have a look. A little bit of surface flooding, and some residents were out there raking the leaves away from the stormwater, which was good. But yeah, they're unusually enormous trees, and they're incredibly imposing. So I would like to see a staff response from that site visit, that we get another one. What is happening?
Would you like me to check on some reactive pruning around that and how that should be progressing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
update on that would be good. Thanks, Mark.
And no signed document, just.
Okay, and so I'll just get some staff advice on that request from him, that he wants us to admit that they are an issue. Because
I'm not sure that that's something we'd have board support for.
That's
No,
right.
absolutely not.
A staff comment on that. Okay, thank you. I just thought I might ask.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Pauline.
Welcome.
I'll go last, just to give you an update on what I've sort of done as chair since the last meeting. From what I can remember off the top of my head, I attended the Kainga Ora Shirley reference group meeting, which was really good, and we've got another one next week. As Simon mentioned, we had the Anzac Parade and Service, which us 3 Papanui representatives went to. They apparently were about 10,000 people were there. It's the second biggest one in Christchurch, behind the dawn service. Simon and I presented our annual plan submission to the council, and we did our monthly report to the council last week. And then last night I went and spoke to a group of St John's cadets. It was really great. They was one part of one of their badges. They needed to learn about local government and find out how they can make a difference and what they can do. They were really engaged group of teenagers, and one suggestion that they had when we talked about engagement and how to get younger people involved was council using TikTok. So that's that. Yeah, we were ticking that earlier. Nice. A number of councils around the country are using it. There was actually a spin-off article the other week about ranking the council using their TikTok accounts. So yeah, if we want to get young people engaged, we have to go where they are, and TikTok is it at the moment.
But isn't it with TikTok, government doesn't want us to use TikTok? All the government organizations.
A number of councils are using it.
Because the data breach is quite easy with TikTok.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's a big news about it. And even Parliament has come out of it as well. So
We'll check.
Yeah.
Video in.
yeah, video definitely.
On that
Yeah,
platform, but
video works. Absolutely.
And then sort of coming up, we've got, as Victoria mentioned, the Neighbourhood Trust AGM. And also next week, I'm speaking to a group of Selwyn House students. They have a community problem solving group, and they've asked me for suggestions on problems that they can try and solve, help with. So I've given them some ideas already about, I mean, I've said, look, the council has big picture problems, but we maybe want to work on stuff that feeds into them. So Selwyn House.
The Edgewood flooding.
You know, there's, they're keen to discuss the ideas I've given them, but if you've got anything you want me to take.
So if they could actually tell us the meaning of life, that would be really good. But also, didn't they win a couple of years ago? They came to our school.
Yeah, I think this is slightly different. This project.
That was future problem solving, Pauline. That part of
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, I might even try and get them along to, once they've done what they do, then I'll get them to come along and speak. Yeah. So that's all from me.
I think so.
So with that, we will do our karakia and then we'll close the meeting. Different ones. Yeah. So do we know one? Put up here.
The run sheet. Look, sorry. I'll close the meeting. Thank you, and thank you for the public who have come along.